Okay, for the first time in 2024, I actually am speaking to you on the microphone. All the videos that were uploaded yesterday and on the 31st, those were pre-recorded. I went on a trip, I went to Seattle, saw some folks, and now I am back. By the way, thank you so much to the response on the videos in 2024 so far, particularly the long and dragged out 20-minute commentary that I made talking about very personal stuff. Very happy to see the response in that because this is the first video that I'm recording after that video has been published. I guess I can say my grace. But today we are going over some news that happened whilst I was on my trip that I did not get to talk about. And we'll get into the entire Ilya Samsonov conversation later in today's show. What I wanted to do was go over the status of Maple Leafs goaltenders, current and former, and just dive into the intricacies as to what happened with those situations. But in today's video, we are responding to the Ilya Samsonov waive and the subsequent calling up of one Dennis Hildeby, and asking the question as to whether or not he can be the guy to fix what's going on. Now, long story short, Ilya Samsonov, the guy who has been supposed to be the main goaltender, or at least one of the top dogs on this squad, he got sucked, and he got waived. He went unclaimed. He's going to the Marlies. He's going to do his thing there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that situation in the next video. But when it comes to potential replacements, a lot of people were really intrigued as to what Dennis Hildeby could provide. He was a 2022 fourth-round pick by the Maple Leafs, 122nd overall, and you'll note that he is 6'7", 223. This guy, now that he's in the NHL, I believe he is the tallest NHL goaltender that's active right now, or at least he's tied for it, something like that. Hildeby's huge, and a 22-year-old goaltender coming into Toronto in this situation is going to make things very interesting, considering the fact that the Maple Leafs have been pretty alright this season, all things considered. And I say all things considered because they're still third in their division, tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning, with 4 games in hand. This is a team that should have no problems making the postseason, at least within the foreseeable future. But when it comes to goaltending, with Joseph Woll still out and about, there still was a big need to fill that hole. And the question really is, could Dennis Hildeby do that? Now, I did find it interesting to note that a lot of Maple Leafs fans, upon the Ilya Samsonov sending down situation from a few days ago, a lot of fans already assumed, hey, Hildeby is going to be the guy. In fact, there was a Steve Dangle tweet from the 31st saying, yeah, nearly 700 people on Yahoo Fantasy have already added Dennis Hildeby, who hadn't even been called up yet at that point. And if you're not familiar with how the Yahoo Fantasy system works, it shows you which players are hot, which players are cold, which players are getting added, and which players are getting dropped. So, like around 700 people went out there and added this guy. You can see 7 people dropped him, but that really doesn't mean anything because there's no way anybody feasibly had him on their roster before, like, last week. So those 7 drops are probably people who picked up Hildeby for the memes and then just decided to drop him within, like, the next few days because, hey, why am I taking this guy? He hasn't even been called up yet. But hey, guess what? Now he is. He's in the Toronto Maple Leafs main system, and he does have himself a .919 save percentage in 15 games played with the Marlies this year. Honestly, this has been a pretty great progression for a guy that was just drafted in 2022. He had a .931 save percentage in the SHL in 7 games played, which is why he got drafted where he did in the first place. And you gotta remember, this actually was a triple overage prospect. He was born in 2001, meaning that he was eligible for the 2019 draft, but he wasn't really anything special until 2022, 3 years after the fact, which is why he slipped so far into the 4th round despite being a capable SHL goaltender. But still, as a draftee by the Maple Leafs, he had himself the .918 save percentage with Farjestad BK last year in the SHL. Not particularly fantastic numbers, but still good enough to justify being an NHL caliber prospect. And then at 22 years old, the guy is here. .919 AHL. Now he's coming to the NHL, and this is going to be his chance. Now, to help us out, we're going to go over onto the Dobber Prospects Scouting Report because what they did was actually give us a bit of a summary. Hildeby is a big-bodied netminder who covers a lot of net and shows composure in his movements. He reads the play well, but will have to manage his level of activity tracking the puck. In the June 2022 report written out here by Colin Hunter, there's actually a lot of good info here in regards to Hildeby and his profile. I know this is from like 2 years ago, but this is still a really good look. I think many in the scouting community were a little surprised when the Leafs traded into the 4th round of the 2022 draft to select Hildeby. However, once you analyze the selection a little deeper, some sense can be made of the choice. Hildeby is listed at 6'6" and 234 and looks every bit of it on the ice. He's an imposing goaltender who uses his size effectively to provide shooters with very little daylight. Hildeby is very rarely caught out of position due to a number of factors. He plays a calm and composed game, choosing to use relatively short and conservative movements. He is highly poised on his feet and typically anticipates lateral play well. His technical ability is smooth and quiet, allowing him to arrive in position and set his feet prior to a shot being released. However, in rare instances that he is caught out of position, he has the athleticism and drive to make out-of-the-box saves where necessary. While he is very strong at maintaining his angle, his depth management is somewhat concerning. As a bigger goalie, he can afford to play a little deeper in the net. However, as play develops, particularly in plays requiring lateral movement, Hildeby can get caught playing a little too deep into his net. Additionally, he seems to occasionally have a little difficulty positioning himself on plays developing from the half wall, getting caught off angle and or too deep. While his calm, controlled game is a strength, he'll need to improve his speed, moving laterally in order to maintain stronger depths and sustained zone possessions. He is clearly a late bloomer. Even in the viewings I've seen this year, he has massively improved during the year. It's clear the Leafs have identified players with different development paths as a market inefficiency. It's an interesting philosophy, and one that someone could write a full article on, but for now we'll see how it plays out with Hildeby. So, this is the guy. The new guy in town. But that's all he is, the new guy in town. Whether or not he's the savior, we'll see. What I also wanted to do was go over onto an article on the Toronto Star published by Kevin McGrawn, also from December 31st. This article was published before Hildeby got called up, but its contents were summarized in the January 1st edition of Spectres Hockey. I'll leave a link to both of these articles in the description. The Star article is behind a paywall, which is why we're going on around the Spectres. But Kevin McGrawn tried to answer the question as to who could be next for the Toronto Maple Leafs and their goaltending situation. He believes GM Brad Treliving is considering his options after placing the struggling Samsonov on waivers yesterday. Martin Jones will fill the starter job as the Leafs await the return of sideline netminder Joseph Woll, who is weeks away. Given Samsonov's difficulties this season, he is expected to clear waivers and report to the AHL, which he did. The Leafs could call up Dennis Hildeby or Keith Petruzzelli from the Marlies. They could also claim Eric Comrie off waivers from the Sabres or fill the void with a trade. The options are few and far between in the trade market, but McGrawn does note that Jake Allen of the Canadiens and former Leaf James Reimer of the Red Wings are believed to be available for the right price. There are some other articles talked about as to whether or not there could be a Jacob Markstrom or a John Gibson tossed in there, but I wanted to focus on the two goaltenders at the end here because, of course, they're for my second and third favorite teams. Jake Allen getting tossed into the Toronto Fire, honestly, I'm not surprised. The guy gets linked to every team under the stars these days, and the Canadiens, they've been fine, and Jake Allen has been fine. 903 save percentage in 13 games played is definitely not the best he's ever put up, but it's something. He's definitely gotten better as the year has gone on. And then you have yourselves James Reimer, who is a really different kind of profile because this is a guy that has some history as a member of the Maple Leafs. He was one of the main figures of this team literally like a decade ago, and I think there's a lot of history that you could try to unpack and uncover here should you try to make a trade for James Reimer if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2024. Reimer this season is definitely not number one in Detroit. That honor belongs to Alex Lyon. Reimer has an .889 save percentage in 12 games played and a .341 goals against. Out of each of the four goaltenders the Wings have played this season, Reimer has been the worst one, and it's maybe even by far. While Ville Husso doesn't provide the best security either, and a lot of Wings fans will take their first ticket to go out there and hating on him and his play, his numbers technically have been a tad better than Reimer's this season. He has a slightly higher save percentage, albeit with another also higher goals against, so I guess it kind of rounds itself out. Both Reimer and Husso haven't been great this year. Alex Lyon is definitely the number one, but the Wings, if you wanted to say, they're going to not want to ideally rotate that 3-goaltender rotation in there anymore, then maybe a James Reimer trade is on the horizon. If the Toronto Maple Leafs wanted to get creative, they could go after another name that's not Allen or Reimer, but these two were the ones that were mentioned in the Toronto Star article. Just in case the Dennis Hildeby experiment does not work out, he is not great either, and the Leafs still need to find themselves a goaltender while Woll is on the IR. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, do you think Dennis Hildeby can be the guy? And if he's not, do you go after a player like Jake Allen? Do you go after somebody like James Reimer? Would you like to see Optimus Rhyme suit up for Toronto one more time? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.